Hi, I'm Julie Boatman with Flying Magazine, and I'm here with Vipul Gupta, who is Vice President and General Manager with Honeywell Aerospace in their avionics business unit. Vipul, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Julie, thank you. Thank you for having me today. And my name is Vipul Gupta, like you said, and I've been associated with aviation for quite some time, and I work for Honeywell Avionics, and we have, wonderful opportunity to kind of bring a new flight deck into the market. We actually kind of showed that flight deck in NBAA and the event prior to that, and we are really excited, not in general actually about our flight deck, but overall about our about the aviation and where we are actually going in the UAM market and the other spaces. So thank you for having me, and good to talk to you.
Yes, it's great to talk to you too. So, you come from actually a background as a private pilot yourself, so you have a little bit of insight as to what a pilot experiences on the flight deck. And you probably know that with all of the digital and analog tools that a pilot has at their disposal, both as they're planning for a flight and executing it, and even in post-flight, how do you seek to help a pilot integrate all of that information without losing their connection to the real flying environment?
Yeah, so Julie, like you said, for all of the pilots and everyone I've spoken to, the number one thing is aviate, right? So the simple philosophy and the simple priority order is aviate, navigate, communicate, and then all the other secondary pieces of information which comes through it. And as we are actually looking at, our flight deck solutions or any of the other solutions, we actually focus on that particular philosophy. We never take attention away from the aviate part of the flying responsibility which a pilot has. Um, as part of Honeywell Anthem, we are actually bringing ability to provide a lot more information to the pilot, and all of that information is available onto the front displays, but they're not directly available onto the PFD. The focus is still aviate, right? The other piece is today, me as a private pilot, when I actually go out flying, if I want to actually go and look at some maps, sometimes I take out my tablet
Mhm.
and cross me over there using a tablet. Hey, it's great. Tablets are really easy to use, very helpful, but there is another piece of device which you have. Sometimes it's a clutter. Sometimes you're even keeping that tablet right on your lap, which is not always helpful. And sometimes you have proper places where you can put the tablet, but that's not always the case, right?
Mhm.
What we have done is we have provided all of that experience of the applications which can come with the tablet straight onto the avionics, straight onto the front displays, onto the fingertips of the pilot. EFP integration. EFP integration has been done, very deep integration which has been done with Honeywell Anthem, with focus on making things easier for the pilot and ability to transfer information from the EFP, which they might actually use
Mhm.
in their hotel room, directly onto the avionics easily. And when they come and sit into the airplane, they don't have to take their tablet out. They can actually use their applications which they were using in the hotel, but they use it on the front displays. And the focus has been to provide that information from the perspective of what is most important for the pilot to fly right away, right now. And that has been our goal. We do not actually clutter the display with the information. We actually focus on what is the most important thing and then actually provide that information to the pilot. And then the applications itself, right? There will be a thought process which we will actually go with our OEMs to focus on what applications we actually provide straight away onto the avionics and what applications we do not actually include into that into the front avionics front display suite. So that's our thought process in making sure that we have very cogent, very consistent set of information for the pilot to actually use and focus on flying rather than just hey going through tons of information.
Sure. Well, what was really exciting to me to see was that Honeywell is presenting this as a solution that's applicable across a multitude of platforms. So, it's not just for a super mid-sized biz jet. It's not just for a turboprop, but you see scalability across platforms. Can you talk to me a little bit about why that's important and how that's achievable in the certification environment?
Yeah, absolutely. And scalability is key for Honeywell Anthem to be able to serve so many markets, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at our current set of offering, an integrated flight deck, our Primus Epic, it is serving a very narrow swath of market, which is high-end general aviation and our business aviation segment. And when we started thinking about, hey, what we want to do as part of the new integrated flight deck, one of the thought process was what was the market which we were going to serve. And it started some time ago. UAM wasn't there at that time, right? But the focus was definitely on the low MGA and the air transport, and the UAM came through as well. And scalability with UAM became even more important, right? Some of the UAM operator are looking to fly like an air transport airplane, commercial operations, right? Consistent operations from a point A to point B, 4 flights a day or something like that. They would like to have the capability which you have as part of the commercial operations on an airline, airplanes today, but they want the size and weight of the GA and connectivity of business aviation, right? It's kind of best of all worlds. And we have been able to do that with Honeywell Anthem. So one of the key elements which we did is early on, we actually picked the components which we wanted to select for Honeywell Anthem. And we really went down to actually core components onto the circuit cards and how we architected our Honeywell Anthem to scale up from that perspective. So we have used our core components to design, let's say, the processing module, the surveillance computer, the switch, which will allow the network, the RDCs, the data concentrator. And based on what is needed for that particular platform, we actually pick and choose. Let's say we need 2 processing modules, 2 displays, 2 switches, 1 and INSU, and we can put it all together. In case it's a bigger platform, it requires a lot more applications to be hosted onto the platform. We'll put additional processing modules onto the system, onto the flight deck. And that actually provides that scalability. If the network is even bigger, we can actually have up to 4 switches in order to actually provide that scalability even on that network. So on left side, right side, you can have primary and backup as well, right? So essentially that's the focus on component by component to focus around how do we scale up from just one segment to the other segment and then air transport all the way up to air transport segment.
Fantastic. So where are you in the development cycle? Are you flight testing this? Are you on a specific platform for the initial flight test?
Yes. So Honeywell does have it on one of our own flight test airplanes, flight test assets, and we are actually flying it right now. And we have done roughly around 100 hours using Honeywell Anthem on that particular flight test airplane. And our flight test campaign started out this year in June timeframe, and we have been very happy with the progress which we have done. But it's not just about the flight test campaign and one flight test airplane. We started this journey about 3 years ago, with focus on the components, focus on getting the architecture right. And today we have roughly around 20 benches running internally within Honeywell, and a lot of engineers accessing those bench and a lot of engineers accessing those benches remotely because of the COVID, right? So it's not just one airplane which we are flying on. We also have multitude of benches which we have internally where we are doing the continuous development. And we are doing it on 3 continents. We are doing it right here in Phoenix, Arizona. We are doing it in Europe, in Brno, and we are doing it out of Bangalore as well. So we have structured actually our benches in all 3 locations to provide that testing means and provide the means of development means for Honeywell Anthem. We expect to add our flight test assets as we progress into the development, and we are expecting another one to actually join our flight test platform by next year, mid next year. And then our OEMs will also start flight testing it pretty darn soon right after that.
And you have some pretty exciting partners for that as well. You know, some of probably the usual suspects, but also entities like Lilium. What's really interesting about this flight deck is that you've got it set up so that it's aimed both for piloted aircraft and possibly for autonomous aircraft in the future. What about that?
Yeah, and we are really excited about the UAM segment. As you know, Honeywell actually created a UAM business unit for the overall aerospace to actually go and focus on the growth across all of our product segments within this market space. For our business, for my business, we are providing our fly-by-wire system, the flight control system, and the avionics flight deck as well. Um, and our focus in the eVTOL market, in the UAM market, has been talking to the customers. Um, like Eve said during the launch event, we have been talking to them for the last 2 years, trying to assess what really matters for their airplanes. How do we make them successful, and what will we need to do within our flight deck in order to make that happen, right? Connectivity has been crucial for that particular segment because they're looking at it as like, hey, we want to do this commercial operations continuously. We want to know where is that airplane and what is going on with that airplane so that we can keep it up and we can actually keep that airplane flying continuously if possible, right? So having that connectivity is crucial. Now, you mentioned and you touched on autonomy and autonomy and autonomous operations. um, we see it today in our cars, right? If you would have asked me, hey, in 10 years, will my car drive on my own? I would have said, no way. 10 years ago, if somebody would have said, oh, yeah, you're going to drive an electric car, I would just, yeah, if it is a Tonka truck, but not really a car, right?
Right.
So if we look at it, technologies and technology evolution across the transportation segment, across the electronic segment is quite high. Within the UAM market, we fully expect the autonomy to come. Timing will depend upon how our OEMs take it forward and how we work with our regulatory agencies, whether it is EASA or FAA. But what we have done within Honeywell Flight Deck, within Honeywell Anthem, within the flight deck itself, is making it easier for our pilots to fly, taking that work out of their hands and making it easier for the system to fly on its own as well, right? Some of the things which we talked about, like smart scratch pad, makes things easier for a single pilot, right? In a two pilot cockpit, you will have one pilot actually kind of taking care of communications. In an air transport, in a commercial operation, you will have one pilot taking care of communications, whatever happens with the ATC, and then the other pilot, who will be the pilot flying, taking care of all the flight activities. Honeywell Anthem is designed in such a way that you can have that interrupt driven workflow with single pilot. Let's say if you do get interrupted by the ATC while you are actually doing your flight changes or flight plan changes or something like that, it's very easy for the pilot to just make those changes into the smart scratch pad, put it into the system, and go back to doing what they were doing, which makes it easier for autonomy to come onto the platform.
Sure.
And my final take will be, I expect the speed of innovation is very high. So we will not be restricted by the speed of innovation. At least that's my take on it. Our big concerns will not be even on market base. Our big, actually, the driver of, hey, how fast autonomy comes is based on the regulations and then acceptance by the public as well, right? And that's how I look at it. As you know, Julie, today air transport airplanes can actually fly pretty much 90% of their time autonomously, and it's just the takeoff and the landing, where pilot is actively involved. And we are focusing on making even those areas easy for the pilot, right? Takeoff assist, landing assist, all of those technologies which are being brought in to make autonomy happen. And our focus is to make that autonomy happen step by step, and providing the confidence that the Hay system can handle those things, so that when the public is ready, we are ready with our flight deck as well.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like a great mission. Vipul, and we look forward to seeing how Anthem progresses in flight test over the next few years. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for having me, and thank you for talking with me today.